Section 14 of Greatheart by Ethel M. Dell. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 14. The Purple Empress. Colonel Devine once more wore his most magisterial air when, after breakfast on the following morning, he drew Dina aside. She looked at him with swift apprehension, even with a tinge of guilt. His lecture of the previous morning was still fresh in her mind. Could he have seen her on the ice with Sir Eustace on the previous night, she asked herself. Surely not. Apparently he had, however, for his first words were admonitory. "Look here, young lady, you're making yourself conspicuous with that 3-volume novel Baronet. You don't want to be conspicuous, I suppose." Her face burned crimson at the question. Then he had seen, or at least he must know, something. She stood before him, too overwhelmed for speech. "You don't, eh?" he insisted, surveying her confusion with grim relentlessness. "Of course not," she whispered at last. He put a hand on her shoulder. "Very well, then. Don't let there be any more of it. You've been a good girl up till now, but the last 2 days seem to have turned your head. I shan't be able to give a good report to your mother when we get home if this sort of thing goes on." Dina's heart sank still lower. The thought of the return home had begun to dog her like an evil dream. With a great effort she met the Colonel's stern gaze. "I am very sorry," she faltered. But Lady Grace did say I might go and see Mrs. Everard, the invalid sister, yesterday." "I know she did. She thought you had been flirting with Sir Eustace long enough." Dina's sky began to clear a little. "Then you don't mind my going to see her?" she said. "So long as you're not there too often," conceded the Colonel. "The younger brother is a nice little chap. There is no danger of your getting up to mischief with him." Dina's face burned afresh at the suggestion. He evidently did not actually know, but he suspected very strongly. Still, it was a great relief to know that all intercourse with these wonderful new friends of hers was not to be barred. "There was some talk of a sleigh drive this afternoon," she ventured after a moment. "Mr. Studley is taking his sister, and she asked me to go too. May I?" "You accepted, I suppose?" demanded the Colonel. "I said I thought I might," Dina admitted, and then, very suddenly, she caught a kindly gleam in his eyes, and summoned courage for entreaty. "Do, please, please let me go," she begged, clasping his arm. "I shan't ever have any fun again when this is over." "How do you know that?" said the Colonel gruffly. "Yes, you can go, but behave yourself soberly, there's a good girl. And remember, no running after the other fellow tonight. I won't have it. Is that understood?" Dina, too rejoiced over this concession to trouble about future prohibitions, gave cheerful acquiescence to the fiat. Perhaps she was beginning to realize that she would see quite as much of Sir Eustace as was at all advisable or even to be desired without running after him. In fact, so shy had the previous night's flight with him made her that she did not feel the slightest wish to encounter him again at present. To go out sleigh driving with Scott and his sister was all that she asked of life that day. It was a glorious morning, despite all prophecies of a coming change, and she spent it joyously lounging with Billy. Sir Eustace had gone skiing with Captain Brent, and the only glimpse she had of him was a very far one, so far that she knew him only by the magnificence of his physique as he descended the mountainside as one borne upon wings. She recalled the brief conversation that the brothers had held in her hearing the night before, and marvelled at the memory of Scott's attitude towards him. He isn't a bit afraid of him, she reflected. In fact, he behaves exactly as if he were the bigger of the two. This phenomenon puzzled her very considerably, for Scott was wholly lacking in the pomposity that characterizes many little men. She wondered what had been the subject of their discussion. It had been connected with Isabel, she felt sure. She was glad to think that she had Scott to protect her, for there was something of tyranny about the elder brother, from which she shrank instinctively, his magnetism notwithstanding, and the thought of poor tragic Isabel being coerced by it was intolerable. The memory of the latter's resolution to make the acquaintance of the Devines recurred to her as she and Billy returned for luncheon. Would she carry it out, she wondered. The look that Scott had flung at the old nurse dwelt in her mind. It would evidently be an extraordinary move if she did. They reached the hotel. Rose and another girl had just come up from the rink together. A little knot of people were gathered on the veranda. Dina and Billy kept behind Rose and her companion. But in a moment Dina heard her name. The group parted, and she saw Isabel Everard, very tall and stately, in a deep purple coat, standing with Lady Grace Devine. Billy gave her a push. "Go on! They're calling you!" And Dina found the strange sad eyes upon her, alight with a smile of welcome. She went forward impetuously, and in a moment Isabel's cold hands were clasped upon her warm ones. "I have been waiting for you, dear child," the low voice said. "What have you been doing?" Dina suddenly felt as if she were standing in the presence of a princess. Isabel, in public, bore herself with a haughtiness fully equal to that displayed by Sir Eustace, and she knew that Lady Grace was impressed by it. "I would have come back sooner if I had known," she said, closely holding the long, slender fingers. "My dear, you are woefully untidy now that you have come," murmured Lady Grace. But Isabel gently freed one hand to put her arm about the girl. "To me she is just right," she said, and in her voice there sounded the music of a great tenderness. "Youth is never tidy, Lady Grace, but there is nothing in the world like it." Lady Grace's eyes went to her daughter, whose faultless apparel and perfection of line were in vivid contrast to Dina's harum-scarum appearance. "I do not altogether agree with you in that respect, Mrs. Everard," she said, with a smile. "I think young girls should always aim at being presentable. But I quite admit that it is more difficult for some than for others. Dina, my dear, Mrs. Everard has been kind enough to ask you to lunch in her sitting-room with her, and to go for a sleigh drive afterward, so you had better run and get respectable as quickly as you can." "Oh, how kind you are," Dina said, with earnest eyes uplifted. "You know how I shall love to come, don't you?" "I thought you might, dear," Isabel said. "Scott is coming to keep us company. He has arranged for a sleigh to be here in an hour. We are going for a 12-mile round, so we must not be late starting. It gets so cold after sundown." "I had better go then, hadn't I?" said Dina. "I am coming too," Isabel said. Her arm was still about her. It remained so as she turned to go. "Goodbye, Lady Grace. I will take great care of this child. Thank you for allowing her to come." She bowed with regal graciousness and moved away, taking Dina with her. "Exit Purple Empress," murmured a man in the background, close to Rose. "Who on earth is she? I haven't seen her anywhere before." Rose uttered her soft, artificial laugh. She is Sir Eustace Studley's sister. Rather peculiar, I believe, even eccentric. But I understand they are of very good birth." "That covers a multitude of sins," he commented. "She's been a mighty handsome woman in her day. She must be many years older than Sir Eustace. She looks more like his mother than his sister." "I believe she is actually younger," Rose said. "They say she has never recovered from the sudden death of her husband some years ago, but I know nothing of the circumstances." "A very charming woman," said Lady Grace, joining them. "We have had quite a long chat together. Yes, her manner is a little strange, slightly abstracted, as if she were waiting for something or someone, but a very easy companion on the whole. I think you will like her, Rose dear." "She's dead nuts on Dina," observed Billy with a chuckle. "She don't look at anyone else when she's got Dina." Lady Grace smiled over his head, and took no verbal notice of the remark. "They are a distinguished-looking family," she said. "Run and wash your hands, Billy. Are you thinking of skiing this afternoon, Rose?" "You bet," murmured Billy under his breath. He too had seen the distant figure of Sir Eustace on the mountainside. "It depends," said Rose non-committally. "Captain Brent and Sir Eustace have been on skis all the morning," said her mother. "We must see what they say about it." Billy spun a coin into the air behind her back. "Heads Sir Eustace and tails Captain Brent," he muttered to the man who had commented upon Isabel's beauty. "Heads it is." Lady Grace turned round with a touch of sharpness at the sound of his companion's laugh. "Billy, did I not tell you to go and wash your hands?" Billy's green eyes smiled impudent acknowledgment. "You did, Lady Grace, and I'm going. Goodbye." He pocketed the coin, winked at his friend, and departed, whistling. "A very unmannerly little boy," observed Lady Grace with severity. "Come, my dear Rose, we must go in." "I don't like either the one or the other," said Rose, with a very unusual touch of petulance. "They are always in the way." "I fully agree with you," said Lady Grace acidly. "But it is the first and last time in their lives. I have already told the Colonel so. He will never ask them to accompany us again." "Thank goodness for that," said Rose with restored amiability. "Of course I am sorry for poor little Dina, but there is a limit." "Which is very nearly reached," said Lady Grace. End of section 14. Read by Helena Dunstan. Oxford, March 2022.